Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome once again to another Wednesday night here at the Sports Krib. Let's get all the commercial stuff out of the way. You can see it down there on the bottom. You can subscribe and donate on our YouTube channel at our Cash App, $ JEK3. And now let's get to what the show is all about. Let's talk a little sports. I see all the guys are here. I see Bo. Bo, how are we doing this evening?
Good. How about you?
Doing great.
What is going on, fellas?
Hey.
Dave, I see the wrestling match is over in time.
Yep.
Gentlemen. Demetrius,
Hey.
How we doing?
What's up, buddy?
are you all right?
I am not all right. No, sir. There's no point in lying to my guys. No, sir. I am not.
I wasn't sure we were going to see you.
I wasn't sure y'all were going to see me.
Glad to see you made it, man.
Yeah,
Glad to see you
I had to
through
step up. I know I had to step up for my guys.
Well,
That's tough. That was tough.
For those of you that don't know, Demetrius did get on his podcast, and I'm sure there are replays. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, it's archived. It was tough. It wasn't my best. It wasn't my worst, but it wasn't my best. It's tough, right? You guys do these, and you know there's a degree of emotion. Getting on 40 minutes after the game is over. That game, that was rough,
man.
Yeah,
rough.
At least you can get on at halftime.
Exactly.
Well, guys, let's get started here. We got a myriad of topics tonight. Going to keep it kind of short until next week, of course, when we get into our Super Bowl predictions and start going a little bit more in depth into the game. But tonight, Dave, you want to start out Sue's Corner with us?
Sure. She gave me a paragraph here, so I'll just go ahead and read it. A lot has been written about C.J. Stroud's backstory. He seems to be an admirable young man who came from a challenging background. What I didn't know until recently was his connection to Snoop Dogg. Snoop Youth Football is a nonprofit set up in Los Angeles to provide football and cheer opportunities to inner city kids, stressing sportsmanship, discipline, self-respect, and academics. CJ played in this league during middle school, and Snoop was a coach on a team he had. Snoop recognized even back then not only his talent and discipline as a young person, but his overall attitude, and continues to support him. Quote, "He's so positive," Snoop said. "That's what I like about him, is that he's pushing a different narrative than a lot of these other guys in the league. He's pushing a real narrative of spirit, love, and just being a voice of positivity," unquote. Unfortunately, CJ won't be in the Super Bowl this year, but he did receive many kudos, such as the Offensive Rookie of the Year, and certainly has a bright future ahead. So that's Sue's Corner, talking about the link between Snoop Dogg and CJ Stroud.
Very cool.
Very cool. Yeah, Snoop does do a lot of work with kids up in LA and has been very successful at it.
He's been doing that for a long time too, I think, for quite a while.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was when he was young. That's when he was Snoop Dogg.
Well, what I like is he doesn't preach, he does.
Yeah, he literally does that for sure.
Which I really appreciate.
Well, guys, I know I got a few baseball aficionados here on the show, so I thought I'd throw a question in for you. Well, not a question, but a statement, and wonder what you guys were thinking. We were always talking about small market teams and whether they're successful or not, and one of the teams that has been rather successful is the Baltimore Orioles. Well, the Angelos family turned a $40 million investment into $1.752 billion. evaluation. Guys, what were your thoughts on the sale of the Orioles? This is something that has happened within my lifetime, but I thought this was, let's start with you, Demetrius.
Sure. I think this is actually a win-win, right? Anytime you can turn 40 million into 1.7, you win. But quite frankly, this might be such a great buy, even at 1.75 billion. They have young players on that roster right now, like the catcher Ruxman and a couple of pitchers, Bradish and Rodriguez, if I'm not mistaken. They're really good, and they have, by most people's argument, the best farm system in baseball. They've got more young players coming. They're going to be good. They won their division last year. They won 100 games, 101 games maybe, and they've got 5 of the top 100, and a kid named Jackson Holliday that might be the best prospect in all of baseball. So the future is bright. This actually, as weird as it sounds, is buying low. This is probably buying low because they're going to be good for a minute, and the value is just going to go up more. So good for these two private equity guys. Smart move. They're not billionaires by mistake, right? Right? They wasn't an accident. So I think this is one of those rare deals where the family, because I think Peter Angelos is not doing well. I don't know enough details to say it any other way, but not doing well. But I think this is a great sell by them. I think it's a great buy by the guys who bought it. It's a good young team, and they're going to be good for a while.
So,
yeah, no, I agree with Demetrius. Like that's this is a win-win, and anytime you can have that kind of come up right, on a sale, that is amazing. And to your point, I think it actually is kind of a low buy with how good the team is and how good the team can be, especially for the foreseeable future. I mean, just good business.
Reggie.
Same. No, it's a great investment. It's what's interesting is to see if now that this has been sold to Rubenstein and Company, if this is a situation where they will go after higher players, because they haven't for years. They've been like a low balling team. Maybe this influx of cash comes in. Maybe there's a situation where they do go after them. And fun fact, Cal Ripken Jr. and Grant Hill are part of the ownership group here. Fun fact there.
What do you think, Dave? That used to be a good little, American National League rivalry. We didn't play that much, but when we did,
couple World Series, right?
Yeah.
But locally, I'm in the Washington area, but there's still a lot of Orioles fans around here, and the Angelos family was not very popular, especially Peter earlier, because of what Reggie alluded to. They weren't spending money on the team,
right?
And I think this Dave Rubenstein, he was born in Baltimore. He's a local. As Reggie mentioned, they brought Cal Ripken back, who kind of replaced Brooks Robinson as Mr. Oriole. I mean, he was a local guy that just, is still associated with the Baltimore Orioles. So I think it's a really good thing, and I think it's good for the Angelos family. They made their money out of it. I think the son John has been the one that's been the CEO and running the company, and I'm pretty sure that they're going to still keep a stake in it. I believe that this is pending approval by the owners, but I would think that if they put together a good package, it's going to happen. And if they do start spending money on the players, then the fans are going to be, the ownership group is going to be very popular with them.
Yeah, Orioles always been a solid team, but like you said, never was one to spend money. So we'll see where that goes.
So if you guys were to sell a team, right? Say you've been the owner for a long time, you're going to sell the team. Would you be like, hey, I'm going to sell this to you, but I get a box, right? Like in this deal, I get a box forever.
I think they kind of earned that,
That's a gift.
I'll put a box in there.
I feel like I'd negotiate that.
I want that box. I want that box named after me, and it's mine.
Absolutely.
Yeah. 100%. Like I want box seats forever.
Keep a fraction of the action.
Yeah,
man.
right. Like I want the suite. I want the catering. Right. Like.
Yeah. It would be interesting to see what some of the little clauses would be in that we don't know about. Like you say, a boot, one of the stadium room for life or whatever. It would be interesting. A couple NBA questions here. Not going to stay on it too long. But Bo, do you find that the high-scoring league is more enjoyable to watch? We had 4 players that scored 60 points or more last week.
No, can we play some defense, please? Just once, like one time. Can we make this not an all-star game from the 90s? Like, man. So no, I don't enjoy it more.
Reggie.
Kind of indifferent about this. I feel like with scoring is something that's not just exclusive to the NBA. The MLB wants more scoring. The NFL wants more scoring. The NBA wants more scoring. To everybody who wants to see defensive battles, and because it's clearly half of the game that gets kind of overshadowed. If you're like a purist and you really just want to watch all the positions in the game, rather than watching a few guys just go off all the time. I understand where they're coming from, but I think this is like these rules have been relaxed so that this is kind of what you get, right? Like guys scoring. We had 70, and then we had 73 in the same calendar week. I wanted to say, I think that was in like 4 or 5 days differential. That's crazy.
That's why I said 60 plus. Two of those were 70-point games. One by the Greek Freak, and the other by Dokic.
It was Embiid and Doncic.
Luke.
Yeah.
Luke and Embiid, and 2 foreign players also, by the way. The foreign players coming up here and putting up 70 in the same week on you. Crazy. Unheard of in our NBA.
Dave, what do you think?
I think we lost Dave, didn't we?
I think Dave went to like the bathroom or something.
Briefly lost Dave.
Basketball, he'll be back for the NFL.
Dave said, I'll take a break during basketball.
He'll be back for football, next year.
No, we got a few football questions here, but Demetrius, them bad boy Pistons have to be
exactly right. You know exactly how I feel about this. 2 pairs of black socks. What if I may quote a famous philosopher named Colonel Stinkmeaner from the show Boondocks? This is some bullshit. I'm with Bo. I could have kept it simple. I don't enjoy it. Now the Pistons suck, so that doesn't help. But it's borderline unwatchable to me. It's borderline unwatchable. I do not enjoy. I've watched 3 games this year, and that's a statement. I watched. It's a statement.
Were they all Pistons games?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I
and they won 2 of them though. They won 2 of them. So.
That's 2-1 in your view.
For the list that we have tonight, we're going to need like a Costco-sized bag of black socks.
I know. I looked it over and went, "Damn, I'm gonna sound real old tonight." Like real old. And I'm cool. I'm cool with it. But this game, I think we all agree that as you get older, you notice the world starts to tilt toward younger people, and I just get resentful. Right? I'm just mad.
Aging out of the demo, man. That's what we're doing. We're aging out of the demo.
This is not my game. This is not the NBA I grew up loving. The Pistons once held a team to 69 points in the playoff. Held the Indiana Pacers to 69 points in a playoff game. I watched the Piston game a couple of days ago. They had 69 at halftime. Yeah, this ain't the game I fell in love with. So, I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna pass on the NBA for a couple years. A couple more Piston drafts. I'll come back to the NBA. I'm gonna watch hockey.
That's funny.
With it.
I'm gonna have to get some hockey in here for you.
Throw in a Red Wing question every now and then. To hell with the NBA.
Dave, we were talking about the high scoring NBA. Are you with it?
Now we were talking about the no defense NBA. You're trying to sugarcoat this.
Absolutely.
I don't like high scoring football games. Stop.
Exactly.
Yeah. I guess in that sense, yeah, Black Sox and all.
Yeah.
But Reggie, something kind of funny happened at a Hawks game because there was some talk about the Hawks trading D'Angelo Russell for DeJounte Murray. Falcons fans are chanting, "We don't want you." And that's even before they heard about the trade. Reggie, what's going on with the Hawks?
Wait, they were chanting this at a Falcons game, or this was a
No.
Hawks game?
Well, it was at a Hawks game, but it would have also
Okay.
been at a Falcons
It-
game.
it-
Though. The city of Atlanta does not want the guy. So
ATL.
ATL does not want him. So Falcons, Hawks, if the Braves are playing right now, the shout to be there. Nobody wants, like me personally, I do not want to trade DeJounte Murray. I don't see any reason to. I don't see any kind of value we can get back for the guy. We're just giving up at that point. If we're going to give up, we might as well. I don't like half blow ups in sports. You're either blowing it up or you're not. And once you trade DeJounte and get back D'Angelo Russell, are you kidding me? Like I'm not sure if that's a real thing. Maybe his contract's expiring or something, and maybe we're just getting back an expiring contract. Maybe there's some implications there. But from a talent standpoint, absolutely not. No, we don't want DeJounte down here. At least I don't.
Yeah, I seems to be we. Guys, the Lakers are fourth in their division, and actually, the Warriors are last. But the Lakers are below 500, 8 games behind the Clippers. Bo, could the Lakers miss the playoffs this season?
I mean, I hope so, because it would be hilarious.
Very funny.
Yeah.
It is a very real possibility. Yeah, I mean, they're playing inconsistently. So, I mean, they have moments where you're like, oh, okay, they can get there, and then they drop games that don't make sense. So it's just not a great unit that they have. So can they miss it? Absolutely, the way they play.
Yeah. So much for I'm really looking at that situation where LeBron wants to play with Bronny, and it seems to be getting further and further away. But we'll see. Okay, guys, let's get into our NFL section tonight. We have the Pro Football Writers Association, and they name the 49ers running back Christian McCaffrey Offensive Player of the Year. McCaffrey is the first 49er since Steve Young. That was kind of a fact that I didn't know. And he's also the first running back since Todd Gurley.
Wow.
They also named Lamar Jackson the MVP, and they named Myles Garrett Defensive Player of the Year. Any surprises here, Dave?
Not a surprise. Just one of them is a joke. One of the ones that were named.
Well, you can see.
You gonna leave us hanging?
What is it?
I mean, the one that I don't think belong, and I guess I'm a homer, but Myles Garrett. I think there's no way that he outperformed T.J. Watt as Defensive Player of the Year. And, guys like Peter King, these former, once reliable journalists, he said he relied on Pro Football Focus and on their grade on quality pass rushes.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait. TJ Watt had more sacks, more quarterback hits, more quarterback pressures, but somehow Garrett is a better pass rusher, had more quality pass rushing. So this is like an invented metric. It's kind of like saying, well, hey, this quarterback, he throws a really tight spiral.
Yeah.
So I'm going to grade him higher on his passes, even though they're incompletes, over the quarterback that threw wobbly passes that went for touchdowns. It's like for style points. And it makes absolutely no sense to me.
You're saying just because TJ Watt outperformed him in every metric that matters, he's better? Yeah. And we're relying on pro football.
Sure.
No, I'm 100% in agreement with you. I'm kidding. But,
that's crazy.
You nailed it at the beginning. They're relying on these Pro Football Focus is ruining the way certain people watch our game. And I didn't mean to interrupt you. I agree with you 100%.
You would think that they are part of the voting body for the college football playoff.
And they might be. We don't know yet.
they might be. But, for the other ones, McCaffrey, I thought that was a great selection. The 49ers, everybody talks about the NFL as a passing league. The 49ers ran the ball more than they passed it in 2023 in the regular season. They ran the ball 499 times and they passed 491 times. McCaffrey ran 54% of those running plays, plus he tacked on 67 receptions.
Can we have 49er talk, please?
Well, I think it's a well-deserved offensive player.
The truth hurts there, Demetrius. You know who some of those yards were on.
I admit it. I was still hurt. I'm still hurting. And then David is waxing poetic about all the
like
great.
rubbing that scab.
I know.
On
I'm looking at the scab. Look how great the 49ers are.
But a little bit less so. I think Lamar Jackson is deserving because they're looking at the regular season. And I think he earned it. We'll talk more about the playoff game, but I think that those two were very well deserving selections. But the Myles Garrett thing, and the other thing that got me is the NFL marketed Myles Garrett all season long.
Yep.
Like on Twitter, you would see the NFL, who's supposed to be the administrator of the game. I would think that they would be an impartial judge. But they were basically marketing him all season long, and it's don't you also hire the officials? I mean, it's an optics thing. I'm not making any claims there, but it's kind of. I would think that the NFL would be more neutral in those types of awards.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm not making.
Feels like you are, bro.
They are trash.
It certainly sounds like you are.
Reggie, you've been kind of quiet here. Did you?
No, I second what Dave said. Well, because all you can do is perform and put up stats. Like there's nothing else players can do. So when a players perform and put up stats and not rewarded for said stats, that's kind of, I think that's a legitimate point. I think TJ Watt could have easily won this award. The Christian McCaffrey Offensive Player of the Year. It's always curious to me when the overall MVP is an offensive player, but they don't win the Offensive Player of the Year as well. Like it's always a weird little thing there. Like you'll have an Offensive Player of the Year in Christian McCaffrey, but the MVP is Lamar Jackson, but he also plays offense. So I don't. That's always a little weird. I can understand it, I guess, if you look into the details there. No problem with Christian McCaffrey winning that player because he was legit competitor for MVP. The MVP situation is interesting because with Lamar Jackson winning it this year, it reminds me of when Embiid won it last year. And then Jokic won a championship. So that's kind of like what we're having here, right? Patrick Mahomes goes in there. He's not going to win MVP, but he's playing for a championship. It's interesting. But I do think that it seemed like he had won this 2 or 3 weeks ago, guys. Like he would have had to really been trashed down the stretch to not get this award. So I think that's kind of that was telegraphed.
Well, it's a regular season award anyway, right?
Yeah.
So
Go ahead, Bo.
Oh no, I had TJ Watt winning that also. So I understand stats don't matter, but I feel like they're supposed to. So,
it's some shit, right?
I remember playing football and it seemed to matter at the time, but for some reason it doesn't anymore. Like I don't know, it doesn't make any sense to me. But I don't mind Christian McCaffrey as the Offensive Player of the Year. I do also think that the MVP not being the offensive player is kind of weird, but I also find it weird that the MVP is really the MVQB. So no one else can win that. Right? So,
yeah, that's funny.
Okay, let's see. That's at least 2 pair of black socks. Demetrius, you got on 3?
No, yeah, I'm always wearing them. So I think that the thing is, Bo hit it right at the end. The MVP has turned into a quarterback award. So basically, they're starting to highlight the offensive player of the year to give non-quarterbacks some love. But I don't actually have a problem with it, because if you're being literal and truthful, the V is value, right? And how I've always thought of it, and this goes back to 2013, a baseball situation, the short story. Miguel Cabrera is first baseman for the Tigers, Mike Trout, center fielder for the Angels. And there was this argument, right? And there's this stat in baseball called WAR. And obviously, Black Sox, I'm old, I hate it. It's stupid because it's a nebulous fake number that they're comparing to. And in reality, that year, if Cabrera goes out, the first baseman for the Tigers would have been a dude named Robert Fick. Nice guy, not Miguel Cabrera. The Angels lose Trout. They had a center fielder named Peter Borges, who was actually a pretty good baseball player. It's the drop-off. Take Lamar off that team. What is the difference between the Ravens with Lamar and the Ravens without versus comparably McCaffrey? San Francisco is still a pretty good team without McCaffrey. They're not who they were with him, but that gap is what I think MVP should be measured by. All that being said, because of what I just said, it is a quarterback award, because the quarterback's the most important player on almost every team.
Absolutely.
That's why you need the offensive player of the year to acknowledge a non-quarterback who has a tremendous year, especially when the stats scream like McCaffrey's does. So I'm okay with it. And if we're truly going to start saying most valuable is most valuable, I think that's a good thing. It's going to be a quarterback, because just by the nature of the game, it's always going to be a quarterback.
Demetrius, I'm going to let you start this off. Unfortunately, Bill is not here.
Okay. Right.
And Bill is the one that gave me the inspiration here when we talk about the world of pettiness.
Oh, exactly. I'm going to do my best Bill. Can I do my best Bill impersonation here? Let me get it. I'm on the road. I don't have a tie with me. If I was at home, I would grab a tie right now.
I don't have the time for that long of a show, though.
We never have the time for that long of a show, and it doesn't matter because Bill doesn't give a damn. So no, I'm not gonna do a Bill. But the greatness of pettiness is insane.
So we're talking about the Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce saying that Justin Tucker broke the code by leaving his equipment down on their end of the field. And I guess you would say they used it for bulletin board material. What's your thoughts on this? Like how petty some of our best players can be.
I think you have to generate motivation sometimes. And it's unfortunate. You shouldn't have to with a chance to go to the Super Bowl. But guys will. And there's a guy I never talk about, played in Chicago against my Pistons, but I'm not saying his name. He was the king of this, right? He would invent slights where no slight existed, just so he could feel disrespected in order to hate your guts to try and destroy you.
That worked out pretty well for him. I'm just going to put that out there.
It did. It worked out very well for him. But that's what this is. This is like, and as competitive men, and this might not be a gender thing, competitive women might be the same way. You want to feel disrespected because we can take it up a notch. Like I'm coming into the game ready to play, but wait, you said what? Now somehow I've got a little bit more, which is kind of messed up when you think about it. You shouldn't have the ability to find some extra reservoir of energy, but you do. When you feel slighted or disrespected, you bring a next level. Boxing's the best at it, but that's all this was. This is some petty nonsense that they have to use to say this amped us up a little more. Actually, I think it's mostly BS, by the way. It had no impact on the game at all. But it's a cute little story. Good for the Sports Krib, for sure.
What do you think, Dave?
Well, it kind of looked funny there when they were kicking the balls away and kicking the tee away. And I just think there's a slippery slope in pregame taunting. You reach a slope. And Years ago, Joey Porter got kicked out of a game during the pregame. They just flat out ejected him, and then I think it gave James Harrison a chance to shine. But I think that the NFL, they've put all this emphasis in the game where they will sometimes call a receiver for standing over a defender, such as I think it might have been Flowers standing over one of the Chiefs players.
Exactly.
But they don't always call it. So it's kind of like, hey guys, what do you if this is a point of emphasis, then be consistent with what you're doing. Same thing, during the pregame is if they don't want this to slide into more and more, it's just going to elevate. It's going to get worse and worse until all of a sudden you're going to have players bumping chest. And is that really what the NFL wants? And I would say no, they don't want that.
Your thoughts, Reggie?
Much to do about nothing, in my opinion. I mean, it's had nothing to do with the game. Nothing really happened in the game. The Ravens didn't go out there like, oh, they kicked Justin Tucker's helmet. Let's destroy them. I don't think anybody cared. I don't even know if people knew till after the game that this really happened. I'm not really sure. So I think it's a lot more conversation than any kind of tangible effect on the game, in reality.
Yeah. Bo, being a former player, what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously this was some gamesmanship, right? I mean, because there was no reason for Tucker to be down there. He's setting up a tee on the goal line. How many goal line kicks you get? 0, right? So, I mean, clearly he's down there messing with people. But, and them kicking stuff away, like when you saw the first shot of it, you're like, oh, okay, I mean, Kelsey's kind of being a douche. And then you start seeing more angles of it, and it's like, yeah, Tucker really didn't need to be there. Right? Like you're on the goal line setting up your tee. Like, hey, come on. That is a scenario that can't happen in football. So, he didn't need to be there. And then, when you were talking about Flowers, right? He, spikes the ball, stands over him. Sometimes they won't call it if you just stand over him, right? Like if you're not quite squared up. But he actually had 3 personal fouls all on that same section of the play because he pushed off the guy to stand up, then stood over him, then spun the ball, almost hitting him with him. Like you could have got it for all 3 acts. So there's no way that one was going to slide. That's the third pump, right? Like you could get 2 pumps, but that third pump, you get the flag. So that one, they were doing he did as many things wrong as you possibly could have. So at least he capped it off with a fumble.
Right. Exactly. Finish it right.
Bo, was that moment just too big for the Ratbirds, i.e. Lamar Jackson? So
I actually don't blame Lamar a ton outside of throwing into triple coverage. That was the most idiotic throw I've seen in a while, but it was a play calling thing. So if you have it was 8 rushes to a non-quarterback, only 6 of them were to running backs for the best running team in the league. So you basically abandoned what got you there before the game even started. Yeah. So, I mean, the fact that triple coverage is even an option was because they abandoned the running game and there was no reason for it, right? It's not like this game got out of hand, right? It ended 17-10. Right. So it's not like it got out of hand and they're like, oh, we have to abandon the running game because we're down by 30. We got to catch up. Like this game was never out of reach. So you didn't have to abandon a game plan that has worked for you for 18 weeks. Like, I feel like, you probably could have got this thing done. But no, I mean, he definitely had some moments where he made mistakes. He had a couple of overthrows up the left side that should have been able to be makeable catches. Obviously, that pick was just horrendous. But, I mean, he played well enough that had some of those things connected, I think they probably would have been fine. Because the defense did their job, right? They held KC to 17. They held them scoreless in the second half. So when you look at the stat sheet, the 3 turnovers is probably the biggest part. And the 100 yards of penalties, which really just showcases that the entire team wasn't mature in the moment, and KC has been there 6 times in a row.
Reggie, what did you think? Was the moment just too big for the Ratbirds?
I do think in all, it was because they beat themselves down the stretch. You spend time beating yourselves down the stretch, and the other more experienced team doesn't. These are the kind of things that I think Mr. Scott's waving down there.
I'm gonna get to Mr. Scott in a minute.
But yeah, I do think they spend a lot of time beating themselves. Especially the Flower situation was the ones where you had to have it. I get that teams don't always call standing over players, but it's kind of like speeding. Like you can speed a million times and not get pulled over for it, but if you do get pulled over, you're still speeding. Like he still got it was very flagrant in the sense that Bo described it, especially when he threw the ball down, the ball spinning next to the guy's head. So I think there's more of an issue there. But I think at the end of the day, right.
Like
you're just daring him. You're daring him to throw it at that point, right? You're daring him to throw it. And the reaching the ball over the goal line. I mean, it's a bunch of little things, right? It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. It was a bunch of different little things that I felt like they could have done a lot better. And the Chiefs just did a good job just not beating themselves and holding on at the end. So I think so. Not just for like Lamar specifically, but I think for the team, going away from the run, going away from what got you there, all those kind of things contributed.
Guys, I'm gonna put on my black socks here now because my heroes were George Atkinson and Jack Tatum. And spinning the ball beside the guy's head was nothing. They would have probably spent the helmet with his head in it. I mean, but
I thought there's a lot of things that would have went on in those days.
Speaking of the game has changed, the game has changed. Mr. Scott, how you doing this evening?
Very good, gentlemen. How's it going? Have you already talked about the Motor City Kitties? I mean,
here we go.
Gracious, man.
No,
that's on the itinerary. I think he just added that.
He got his mouthpiece in, man. He's ready to go.
Mr. Scott, right now we're talking about the Ratbirds. We'll get down with the rest of this later. So, what did you think about that game? Was the moment just too big for Lamar Jackson?
Well, it's obvious. He came out flat. I mean, he was missing passes. First few passes, guys wide open. He missed some passes. But the thing about that is, what people have to realize is that the great Michael Jordan, he couldn't get by Boston. Okay, he couldn't. I was in Quad Cities when he was hurt, but he came back for that playoff. When they first made the playoff against Boston, he scored 62, but they got swept, okay? And then he couldn't get by Detroit, of all people, if you can imagine that, with the bad boys. They couldn't get by Detroit. So there's no reason for Lamar to give up. Oh, man, you got to look at who beat you. Sometimes it's about not what you did. It's like who beat you, okay? He should outlast my man in Kansas City, who's the main man now, no question about it. And so his turn can come. I mean, they have coaching, they have good, So I mean, I don't think that's the end of the road by any stretch of the imagination. It's just that sometimes you got to look at who you beat, who beat you. I mean, and that's who the Vikings. They lose to Hank Stram. I mean, they lose to Matriculating Down. They lose to Chuck Noll. They lose to Don Shula. They lose to, So, yeah, it was sad. I mean, my buddy in Baltimore, he called me and said, even my drink don't taste good now. Even though he's so down that he just, oh my goodness, I just had to call him to make sure stay away from, like I told my man in Detroit, stay away from tall buildings and sharp objects. I'm telling you, goodness gracious. So, but yeah, no, I think he'll be back. I mean, he's it just wasn't his time this time.
What do you think, Demetrius?
I think that the difficulty is when you can play better. What they struggle with. So there's the fans and there's the players. What those players are struggling with is they know they didn't give their best effort, right? Yeah. And that's hard because they know they had a better game that they could have played. So they walk away not knowing if they're the better team. Actually, they probably still believe they were the better team, and you lost on that day. And losing is significantly more difficult for players, fans, everybody than getting beat. If the other team's better and they just outplay you, you can process that.
Like
When
the other
you-
game. You mean like the other
When
game?
you beat yourself, that's what you can't let go of. That's just tough.
Dave.
I agree with but to me, I did not understand the play calling. They only ran the ball 16 times. It was by far the least number of times they ran the ball all season long.
Yeah.
3 out of their 4 losses, including the 2 to Pittsburgh, the winning team ran more than the losing team. And they were averaging over 5 yards a carry. And I know that they stuffed Edwards a few times, but still, why? There was no reason to give up on the running game. And I don't understand that. So on that part, I would put on play calling, and that might have helped Lamar because he had an off game. He only completed like 55% of his passes. The fumble by Flowers at the goal line, that was pretty crazy. But still, maybe the running game would have helped ease that a little bit. And so to me, yeah, the Ravens. I don't know what they were trying to do. Were they trying to highlight Lamar Jackson? I have no idea, but it didn't make any sense to me.
They were trying to catch an L, I think.
Right.
Well, they succeeded. They did a good job of that.
Bo, Seattle hires former Redbirds defensive coordinator Mike McDonald as their head coach. What's going on up there in Seattle, Bo?
Yeah, I actually like this. There was only 2 coaching options that I actually thought were a good pickup, right? Would have been Ben Johnson, although from the sound of it, he wanted some crazy money. And so I'm glad they didn't go that route. And then, McDonald, they have a great defense. And it's something that the Seahawks have really struggled with, especially over the last 5 years. They've been bottom 5 in just about every category over the last 5 years. And so if he can bring some of that back to the Seahawks, the offense is dynamic, right? They got a great trio of receivers. They actually have a 4th receiver that is in Bobo that's a solid receiving option. You got 2 good running backs. The offensive line should be healthy, right? And then Geno can do enough. Outside of this last season where that offensive line was hurt all year, the year before that was a top 10 scoring offense. So if you can go from a bottom 3 defense to a middle of the road defense, it's going to be a tough out for anyone that plays them.
All right. Reggie, the Falcons hired Zach Robinson as their offensive coordinator, and they're interviewing Sean Desai for the defensive coordinator position. What's going on down there with the Falcons?
The Zach Robinson, for some reason, the Zach Robinson hire wasn't as polarizing as the Raheem Morris hire. Like the Raheem Morris hire, you had all kinds of people coming out that either loved it or hated it. The Zach Robinson is kind of met with people kind of like it down here. I don't hear a lot of negativity about it. So at this time of the year, for teams like mine, hope springs eternal, man. I'm hoping all these guys are great right now. We'll see how when they actually start putting them on the field and the kind of product. And despite all of this new stuff happening, if we don't know who the quarterback is, none of this really matters down here at the end of the day. So I feel like you have people waiting with bated breath to see who the quarterback is going to be.
Any speculation?
It's going between. I read one article that said we might trade up because things are all over the place, and teams also put different information out there to try to throw other teams off the scent. So you don't really ever know what's going on until you get closer to the day and things actually happen. There is a Fields contingent down here for some people who do want Fields. He's from Georgia. I'm not necessarily in that contingent only because I would take his rookie contract, but the thought of having to pay him $100 million plus right now is incredibly that doesn't make a ton of sense to me. So that's kind of where we're at. I did hear Russell. Russell would come through on pretty much a Dollar Tree contract.
He would.
So I would.
I
would
work
take
nights
that.
at the Home Depot.
Yeah, let me tell you something. I would Russell because there is a rumor out there, guys, that Russell at $36 million for 3 years. I mean, I'll kick the tires on that at 12 million per. I'll kick the tires on it. You kidding me? But otherwise at 40, no, absolutely not.
Okay, I hear you. Strange things happen here. The Panthers hire a new head coach, Dave Canales, but they also hire Brad Idzik to be their offensive coordinator. But he's not calling plays. Dave, what does an offensive coordinator do that doesn't call plays?
Well, wasn't Kansas City doing that with Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy before?
Yes.
And
So
I
why
think
couldn't
that there's
get a
been other
job?
teams where the head
Well, but-
coach would call plays, and even Pittsburgh, once they fired Matt Canada, they split the duties between Eddie Faulkner and Mike Sullivan, and I mean, it had mixed results. So. There's two major things with the offensive coordinator. Yeah, it's calling plays, or it could be calling plays, but the big thing is designing the overall offensive plan, the scheme of the team, and then preparing that team against their opponents each week. And those are two different functions. You have your scheme and the overall, all the plays that are going to be installed, and then calling the plays during the game is a different skill set, in my opinion. Now, usually it's the same person doing it, but it doesn't have to be. And there's other teams around that the head coach in some cases will take on the role as the play caller, either on offense or defense.
What do you think, Mr. Scott? Have you heard that? Of that being successful?
Well, my thing is this. I mean, I used to listen to this interview with the great George Steinbrenner. People hated George, couldn't stand him. And actually, my friend Dave Winfield, he's one of the people can't stand him. So they were asking him, he would fire Billy Martin, hire Billy Martin, fire him back. And so they asked him, why do you do it? And he just calmly said, you can't be the boss if you can't make tough decisions. And that's where the coach has to decide what he wants to do. I mean, if he wants to have someone call plays, he's going to focus on other things. Or if he wants to call them himself, depends on the dynamic of the team. I think you should have a defense coordinator, offensive coordinator, and let them do their thing. And if they can't do it, then you have to jump in and do it. So it comes the bottom line. The buck stops here. I sail the ship where the ship don't sail. This is how I do it. And so, that's my thoughts on it. The head coach is, in charge, and he can have lieutenants that does, their job too. So it's how you organize your ship.
Bo.
I mean, I don't know. Sign me up for a $2 million contract where I don't have to actually do my job. I'm in. Let's do this. But yeah, I mean, I've always thought it was weird to have an OC and then a head coach that is calling the plays, because if it's not your scheme, I feel like the person that wrote the scheme should be running that show, right? And then if it is your scheme, your offensive coordinator is running practice, I guess, right? So, I mean, I don't know. I'm a fan of hiring people to do the job, trusting the people to make those decisions. But if you are, that person's like, hey, I got to call the plays, then you probably don't really need that position filled. Like, I think you can have somebody that can run practice pretty effectively on its own. But still, if anybody needs an OC and not need me to actually do the job, give me a call.
Demetrius.
So I think we as fans, and y'all know I hate agreeing with Mr. Scott. And every now and then he just fucking nails it, and I don't have a choice but to agree with him.
I'm the best in here. I'm the best in here.
Here we go. Canales and Idzik worked together in Seattle for 4 years, and he was with him at Tampa. This is what I see happening. Canales, this is his first coaching job. This is my ship. We're going to do it the way I'm doing it. Now, what I think he's doing is grooming this guy, right? And to Dave's point, we as fans forget there's a massive part of this job that is developing and installing the game plan. It's a job. It really is. Before Sunday, there's a shit ton of work that goes into the installation of this week's game plan. And he comes with them. He's a wide receivers coach. So my feeling is Canales was just calling plays 3 weeks ago. He knows how to do that. This is his ship. He's going to sail it. And he's going to take some degree of time and develop this guy. As a play right now, I need you to work on installing the offense during the week. And he will probably start to spoon feed this guy opportunities to call plays. I would think that two things are going to happen. Canales is going to realize being the head coach and calling the plays is a whole lot of work. And then once Izzy gets to a place where he's comfortable, he'll hand off those play calls. I think this is one of his boys. They've been together for, like I said, 4 years in Seattle plus the time in Tampa. He brought him over for a reason. And I think that it is good money. And I'm with Bo. I take it to do half the job. But I think there's a development thing going on here. There's a degree of this is my ship. I'm sailing it first, right? And when you get up to a point where you could be a first lieutenant, I'll make you a first lieutenant. But right now, this is his first ship that he's ever sailed. So if it were me, same way. First time I was a boss, we're doing everything my way. I don't trust nobody. I'm making all decisions. And that's kind of what it is. And at some point, I think this guy will start calling plays, though.
Reggie.
I feel like if it's going to be the coach calling plays, then I can kind of co-sign this. If it's a third person, it's going to get weird because that's just another person to blame when shit goes wrong. And they're already blaming. They're already trying to throw it around as it is anyway. So let's add a third person in here. Let's just not just blame the GM for giving me shitty players, right? It's you. You guys didn't execute my plays. I called the play. I'm not sure exactly what leg that person would have to stand on doing the least amount of work in the building. But if it's the coach, then I could take it. Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much it. A guy we could throw out there to you when it's time to fire and buy us another year guy.
Yeah, buy us another year guy. Exactly.
Boy, you guys really got on your Black Sox tonight.
Bo called it at the top of the show. Black Sox everywhere.
Yeah, right? That's why I said we need the Costco bag of Black Sox today.
And then Scott rolls in with a grill from straight out of Compton. Comes in straight out of Compton with a grill in his mouth. What just happened?
He's got that lowrider on Dayton's out front.
He did. He came in hot. He was waiting for it.
Yeah.
Well, see, I'm used to getting shots. I'm used to that. I'm used to it. Now this is why people now all of a sudden, guess what? Who's the most hated team in Kansas City? Why? Because they beat everybody. Because they win.
Yeah, they win. They win
keep
games.
Winning, and everybody's so bitter because they want to win, but they're not good enough. That's the reason they can't win. Their teams and places like Detroit and these kind of places, they can't win because they're not good enough. They're
just
not
catching
strays. This is why they can't win.
The whole city just caught a stray just now.
This is not unexpected. It doesn't even bother me anymore. It bounces off me. It bounces off me like it doesn't exist. I know who I am. I know about my city. It's funny. It's cool.
So do I.
Man.
Dave, the Steelers president, Art Mooney, said that we've had enough of playoff wins drought. He says, that the play of our quarterback play last season is definitely unacceptable. Do you think that perhaps Justin Fields, Dollar Store, Russell,
Dollar Tree Russell, man, absolutely.
Or maybe even Geno Smith might be candidates. The Steelers hired ex-Falcons head coach Arthur Smith as OC, and
my God,
you and Reggie might
Reggie.
You and Reggie might want to talk about that, Dave.
I'm gonna let y'all have all my time. I'm
get
just
this
gonna
man out
pass
of my
my
life.
time to y'all.
One team to my next team. Like, what is this guy doing to me?
I mean, how good can you feel when he forgot Bijan was on the roster?
Well, now he gets to forget Najee now, so I mean, it's all good. Now, he got two running backs he can forget in Pittsburgh.
Exactly.
Oh,
Well, I mean, in terms of the, go ahead, James.
No, I said save us. What's going on here?
Well, first of all, in terms of what to put Art Rooney's words into context, yeah, he did say that he's sick and tired of not winning playoff games. And he also noted that the quarterback play wasn't meeting the standard. But at the same time, he did say that he saw Kenny Pickett coming back, and that's their guy. And he said that they want to re-sign Mason Rudolph, who will be a free agent. We'll see if they're able to re-sign Mason Rudolph. That's still to be determined. But in terms of Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, or Geno Smith, it's possible, but I would say not probable. And part of it is the price tag some of these guys have. The other thing with like Justin Fields, if you bring him in on his rookie contract, well, you're basically undermining Kenny Pickett, who they have not completed their evaluation on. So I don't think it's going to happen. They're going to bring in a free agent quarterback. They may draft a quarterback in the lower rounds just to fill out the roster. But I think that they're going to be going with Kenny Pickett, and if they can re-sign Mason Rudolph, Mason Rudolph. In terms of Arthur Smith, I sent you guys a link. Alex Kozora from Steelers Depot, that's who I write for. But he did a really, really well-balanced article on Arthur Smith. And some things that I didn't realize was all of his links to former Steelers. He was a teammate of Willie Parker when he played back in North Carolina.
What position?
He was a guard.
Oh, okay.
And then he got hurt, and then I think he got hurt in back-to-back games or something, and then he went into coaching after that. Mike Munchak hired him as a quality control when he came back to the NFL. He had started out with the Redskins as an intern. So even though he's the son of a billionaire, this guy has a history of being a very hard worker and starting from the bottom and working his way up. And Mike Munchak hired him. And then after Munchak left, then Ken Wiesenhunt was the head coach. He stayed and then became the tight ends coach at some point. Then Mike Mularkey came in as the head coach. These are all former Steelers. And then Mike Vrabel became the head coach. So there were 4 head coaches in a row. And the common thread, the one coach that survived all those changes was Arthur Smith. I mean, he actually stayed through all 4 coaching regimes. And in the case of Vrabel, they let everybody go except for Arthur Smith and the special teams coordinator. For the Steelers Nation, there's a lot of people are saying, oh, well, we wanted the young guy. We wanted one of these guys like Zach Robinson or Clint Kubiak. Well, Arthur Smith's only 41 years old. He's the youngest offensive coordinator the Steelers have ever hired, except for Mike Mularkey, who they hired at age 40 back in 2001. And then, and in terms of his schemes, he likes to spread the ball around. When with Tennessee, 1 year, 18 different receivers were getting the ball. As an offensive coordinator, I'm not talking about him as a head coach. I'm talking about his offensive coordinator.
Bijan's on line 1. Bijan said, "I didn't get that rock at all." So
well, and I wonder about that, because one of the things that he was asked, because he has a reputation of, hey, he doesn't coddle stars, and basically, hey, he was asked a question: what happens if somebody doesn't buy in to your scheme? He goes, they don't play. I mean, it's just as simple as that. That's what he said.
If you had a winning record, I could co-sign that. But when you're losing, you need to play your stars.
3-7-10 season. I mean, best player and I think a lot of Steelers Nation agrees with you. But
I hope he does well.
The other thing for the Steelers, which he apparently likes a wide run scheme or wide zone run scheme. And the Steelers tried that at the beginning of the year and utterly failed. And then they went to more interior power runs and attacking the gaps and stuff like that. So I don't know how that's going to merge his scheme with the players that he has. But the other thing is he does use fullbacks, and the Steelers had gotten away from using fullbacks. So I think for me, the jury's out. I want to see what his offense looks like in action before I pass judgment. But I thought that this article that Alex Gazora wrote, it was really pretty in depth. I didn't realize he went to high school 4 miles from my house. He went to Georgetown Prep.
Hopefully that leads to W's. Because
literally 4 miles from my house. So, well, what I'm hoping for is that the Peter principle applies. That he was elevated one level above what his true competence.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for too. I like that comment because that gave me some hope for my other team that they're not just sinking their ship with this guy.
Yeah. So we'll see, but that's I can't wait for training camp to see it. What's that?
Yeah, you're good with it then.
Well, yeah, I mean, after reading Alex's article, I am. At first, I was not very happy because of his record with Atlanta, and then some of the reporting that I saw a lot out of Atlanta, it just seemed like he didn't have a handle on the team. And part of his attraction, that reportedly, I think it was Tom Pelissero, he wrote that the reason that he wanted to go to Pittsburgh, because I guess he was talking to some other teams, but the reason he wanted to be have experience with Mike Tomlin and with the stability of the Steelers organization. So it may be that this head coaching experience really left the bad taste in his mouth, and he wants to kind of recharge his batteries.
Yes, same. I'll say that, and also, as much as I want to give this guy credit for getting a job, I really don't give him any credit for being gainfully employed and not living off his father's money. He could have. I think there are certain things that are, because a lot of people say that when they're kind of bigging up on the guy, they're like, well, he went and paved his own way. He went and got a job. He could have sat on his ass all his life. Like, oh, that's cool. I mean, that is something. But are you going to throw to your stars? Are you going to? Does Drake London get more passes because you got a job? Does Kyle Pitts get more passes because you got a job?
Look what he did with Brian Tannehill and AJ Brown when he was the offensive coordinator in Tennessee.
Reggie can't see that because he's buried in a cloud of Bijan not getting the ball.
I'm buried in a cloud, guys, of 7 and 10. For 3 years is what I'm buried in the cloud. I'm buried in the cloud of losing for 3 years. I think at the end of the day, you have to win games. And I think that's why I defend Tomlin to the nth degree, because the guy wins games. Even when people are trying to get him thrown off the team, he wins games. So at the end of the day, I'm not saying that Arthur Smith won't come and win games, but you need to go win games. I'm not going to give you've earned nothing. You've earned no benefit of the doubt at all. You're coming off a team that was abysmal from an offensive, and that's your side of the ball. It was abysmal. So come over here and win games. That's it. And then I'll give you some credit.
Well, a great meme that I saw was because all the Steeler fans wanted somebody from the McVay Shanahan.
Very popular tree for sure.
So there is the meme of the Shanahans and the McVays, like 5 people that were on the same coaching staff at the same time. McVay, Shanahan, 5 of them. Yep. It was the 2013 Washington Redskins that won 3-13.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So I'm just hoping that Smith is a better offensive coordinator than a head coach.
Me too.
Yes.
I feel like you're going into this the same way I was mentally preparing myself when I heard the Seahawks had interviewed Kafka for the 3rd time. And I was like, cool. He was bottom 5 in every meaningful stat. I'm excited. This is going to be
Hope
great.
springs eternal, bro. Hope this time of the year, man. This time of the year, we're searching for something.
Oh, man. All this gray stuff would have just filled in. Like, it would have just been the rest of the way around my face.
Instant gray. Yeah.
Okay, Demetrius, it's that time. Ben Johnson is staying despite his different interviews with the head coach. As some people said, perhaps he priced himself out of a job. But anyway, he's back with the Lions. Head coach, do you think the head coach, Dan Campbell, let his ego bite their kneecaps off, cost them the team a trip to the Super Bowl? And Demetrius, you our stat man. So give us the analytics of those two calls, and then of course, your fanatic perspective of that
Yeah.
loss.
Yeah. So that's a great question. I'm going to tell you because the answer is yes and no. So the thing that analytics never accounts for is momentum, right? So I can't even analyze this, but what I know I saw in the first half was one team was significantly better than the other, played better than the other team. So we're not going to entertain any nonsense from anybody on this podcast. I'll wait and let that sink in.
He tapped out.
Right.
Yeah, he'll be back in a second.
Who might suggest at all that we didn't deserve to be on the field with that team. What happened? This is the simplest thing is to say this. There is a first opportunity to go for it on fourth down in the third quarter. You've dominated them in the first quarter, in the first half. You went in up 17. They come out first drive and you hold them to a field goal. They move down and you hold them to a field goal. Now you take the ball and you're in plus territory. You have an opportunity to kick that field goal and take those 3 points right back, right? Momentum. You take those 3 points right back and you say to them, guess what? That little field goal you got didn't matter. Because momentum is that snowball that rolls downhill. So that was a mistake. Now, I'm not mad at him because he is who he is. And there's an old saying about a frog and a scorpion, right? Dan Campbell's a scorpion. Can't get mad at Dan Campbell for being Dan Campbell. That's who he's been all year. I applauded him when it worked. I will not be a hypocrite and bitch at him when it doesn't, even in the biggest game of the year. I was not shocked he went for it on that fourth down or the later one. That's who he is. And truth be told, Josh Reynolds got to catch that ball. It wasn't a great pass, but Josh Reynolds had 60 targets over the year and he had 2 drops. Josh Reynolds catches that ball,
Rough.
it's a different game, but you don't. So now you don't catch it, they get the ball back. Now they've got momentum. They got a field goal, so they now 2 scores instead of 3. They just stop you on downs. They go down and score because your defensive back drops an easy interception. Now momentum's just building. Now by the time Jahmyr Gibbs fumbles and they tie the game, the snowball is rolling downhill, and that's just, I don't know what you do there. So at that point, it's not about who's the better team. Once we made that decision, the momentum took over, and we saw it happening. And
That's
we
not
already
my
know.
laugh. My laugh is at his laugh, not laughing at
Oh,
your
I know.
comments.
Oh no,
My
I
laugh
got
is
you.
at-
We know the
100%.
we know the
I gotta
bullshit
clarify
train.
that.
We know the bullshit train's about to come down the tracks. I've been waiting for it. It's not a big
No,
deal.
no, you had the 80s bad guy cackle down there in the
I,
corners.
right. I have no problem with what happened. I think we played the best half of football we played all year in the first half, and quite possibly the worst half of football we played in the second half. And we were playing a really good team in their place. And that's what happens. You don't get the luxury of fumbling and making those kind of mistakes on the road against a good team. You'll get beat every time. So nothing that happened was confusing to me. San Francisco's too good to let us run away. We weren't blowing them out. We knew we weren't blowing them out, and we let them back in, and they took it because they're good enough. They were good enough to take it back, and they took it back. Now, what would I say? What would I do differently? Dan Campbell's going to go for it on those 4th downs. Jahmyr Gibbs can't fumble. Josh Reynolds got to catch the ball. So I'm not even on the coach. Players make plays, and players don't make plays. Goff had a decent game, but he missed some throws. St. Brown dropped the ball. He doesn't drop anything. Players make plays, and players don't make plays. And in the second half, San Francisco made every play, and we didn't. Full stop. That's how it happens. There is no excuse. They were better. They were better than us, more better than us in the second half than we were them in the first half. And I mean, that sounds ridiculous, but that's what it was. But
Needed that touchdown at the end of the first half,
right,
instead of the field
exactly,
goal.
exactly. And it's just those are the things that happen. Change the whole game.
The only play that I really didn't agree with, because him going for it on 4th down, it's who he was all year. I'm on board, right?
Yeah,
Plus,
yeah.
the ball did hit him in the hands. Like it wasn't a great pass, but you got to catch that ball. The one that I didn't like was when they ran it and they had to use a timeout. That was terrible clock management because you could have just passed it 4 times, even if you don't, you still kick that field goal, right?
You're gonna score. You're gonna get within 1 score, and you needed all 3 of your timeouts.
Yeah,
so
right?
he admitted that. He
don't
admitted
have
that
to be onside. You could have kicked it deep, played the field position game, used your 3 timeouts. The defense was playing well enough that I think they could have got a stop at the end. That was the play that I was just like, wow, what are they doing? But going forward on the fourth downs made total sense to me. I wasn't mad at that at all.
It was a full team loss. It was part coach. It was players. Goff missed some throws. Receivers dropped passes. Gibbs fumbled. Coach Mason. It was a full team effort, right? And that's generally, you can't do that. If they make 2 of those plays, it's a different game. You can't give a good team like San Francisco that opening. They're going to kick the door down and send your ass home. And that's exactly what they did. So,
Reg, good to have you with us all night tonight. Give us some final thoughts, my man.
Here's for hoping for a competitive Super Bowl. We'll see how many Taylor Swift mentions we get. I know there are a lot of people. There's a big Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce hate movement going on out there. I don't know if y'all have seen that.
Yeah.
People hate these guys. I'm not sure what exactly they did, but people can't stand them. So maybe we get an over under on Taylor Swift mentions on the DraftKings here coming up here, guys.
They succeeded
I'm just
in
saying,
life. That's why
don't play the drinking game because you'll die.
You will be hammered on the floor. Yeah.
Bo.
Yeah, so final thoughts is the general do better, people. Somebody went and cut down a Jackie Robinson statue.
I saw that.
Then put it in a dumpster and lit it on fire out of a little league center area, right? Like, what the fuck are we doing?
Right.
That's it.
Crazy.
You nailed it.
Crazy.
What?
I mean, wow. So hopefully this turns out to be some dumb kids doing dumb stuff and not something more than that. But when you look at the pictures of it, it sure looks like they cut it most of the way and then broke the thing off. That seems a little more than kids doing kid things. Man, what are we doing? Be better,
guess what? They lose in life because the statue is just a statue.
Exactly.
They're never
erase
be there again.
If they ever do find who it is, because they might, who knows? If they do, I feel like you should just be barred from sports for life.
I'm all about
fined and suspended.
Yeah,
I'm about public shaming. Put their asses on TV.
Put them out here.
And,
absolutely.
Right, and just let a group of people that look like me give them the business. I mean, verbally. I'm not talking physically assaulting.
Murder them. I got you.
No, I'm saying hold them accountable. Have them stand in front of a group of people, whoever they're most uncomfortable being in front of, and explain yourself. You can't get away, can't run, can't hide.
Yeah.
Tell everybody why you did, because you're never going to stop the memory. You can't stop the impact. You can't take it away. Nice try.
Right. Still Jackie Robinson.
Explaining is a little bit different than doing business. So
Sorry.
That's what I was saying.
I told y'all I wasn't over Sunday yet. I'm not above jacking somebody up about this.
Came in very hot there, Demetrius. Absolutely, man.
I like if we're just low key. We need to go beat that ass.
Exactly. We're barely after dark.
Demetrius, your final thoughts.
So I'm keeping it light today, but I have this thing like before the Sports Krib. I like to check stuff out. Like, is there a significant event that happened today in history? Is there somebody's birthday? Just interesting. And every now and then you'll find somebody whose birthday is big today. Sometimes you'll find a couple people today. So I checked the list today, and I got Vernon Davis, the former tight end. I got Doug Peterson, Jacksonville's coach. Mario Williams, the #1 draft pick. And I thought, oh, that's solid. And then the list got real. Aforementioned Jackie Robinson.
Oh, wow.
Jersey Joe Walcott, Ernie Banks, and Nolan Ryan, all born today.
Man.
I was like, yeah, that's a heavy hitting lineup right there. I'm going to acknowledge all those cats all on the same day. So the subtle message is, get it in late April and hope your kid's born on January 31st.
Goodness gracious.
Because
plan to have a kid in January is basically that's your final thought.
Get it in late April and your kid's got a chance to do great shit. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy. Speaking of great days and birthdays, mine's Sunday, guys.
Happy birthday, my friend.
Happy birthday.
I'll be the big 77s.
Nice.
So, very nice. Very nice.
7-7. I like 7.
Mr. Scott, your final thoughts.
Well, I think it was really kind of, they're being denied the opportunity to make any comments on Motor City Kitties and Honolulu Blue. I mean, I think that was
your time now, Mr. Scott. You still got a few minutes.
That was a slight. I mean, basically, the coach was exposed. I mean, you kick the field goals, you win the game. I mean, I take the points. You're ahead 20, got 24 points. Keep getting points, pile it up. You win the game. It's a done deal.
You're not wrong.
But and then your quarterback, the immobile, somnambulant scarecrow. He didn't even try to run one time. I mean, he didn't even try to get out of trouble one time to do something. So,
have you met Jared Goff? That ain't what he do. That's not what we pay him to do.
He had 2 yards in that game.
Yeah, of course, but see,
it's not his job. It's not his job. We got 2 really good running backs.
He just did it 2 times. Mr. Irrelevant just ran 2 times with success. You have to change up your game in these kind of things, and so I think the coach was exposed. That's my feeling about that. And then my final thought, I guess, is I keep thinking about the great city of Detroit, where my grandfather lived. Spent a lot of time there. I thought about the great Tigers, Gates Brown, Willie Horton, Norm Cash, Colavito. I mean, what a great team! But what I remember is going to that old stadium and watching a game in that old stadium with the big giant first baseman. His son played for Texas. You know what I'm talking about? Big, huge guy. Cecil Felder. He hits a home run. But what got me was I looked at that stadium and I looked at the top of it. And I remember as a kid watching Harmon Killebrew hit a ball over that stadium. I'm like, I looked at the size of that and how in the world could he ever do it? Harmon Killebrew was one of my favorites. Him, Tony Oliva, my main men. So that's my thought. And my condolences. What a heartfelt statement was made last night by the man from Detroit. I mean, just such affection. He had just such affection for his team, such giddiness.
And I still do.
And I still do. That he's recovered.
I'm rocking a throwback logo tonight. This doesn't go away. I'm hurting now, but we got a healthy cap. We got a young core. This shit's just beginning. This could be your worst nightmare.
Over and out.
and don't forget Mr. Scott, the Packers are coming.
Yes,
you said it.
David, did we get your final thoughts, David? I'm sick of this shit. Did we get your final thoughts yet?
Competitive division.
David, just interrupt, David. It's okay to interrupt. When it's your turn, just jump in, David. To hell with this.
Dave, take us home.
Now I'm going to add on to the Taylor Swift story, because there just seems to be like a lot of hate, a lot of, people are getting angry how many times that she's shown on the TV, and they're comparing the networks. This network showed her 17 times. This one only showed her 6 times.
A lot of time on your hands.
And I was listening to Max Starks. He's a former Steeler player, and he was on Steelers Nation Radio. And he said, the thing is when she's in that booth, those cameras are like a mile away. She can't even see the camera. And she can't control how many times that they choose to put the camera on her booth. She can't control how many times they show her on TV. And she's attended 11 of his games. It's not like she's just going to like one game just to be known. It's her boyfriend, and she's gone to 11 games. And she said herself that she never knew football, and she's learning to appreciate it. And for the NFL, they're about making money, right? We've talked about that a lot. Absolutely. And I was reading a journal article that the segment of the population that buys the most NFL memorabilia, Sue and I were talking about this evening, are women.
Yep.
Why? Because they're the moms. They're the ones buying all this stuff. And then also whenever there was a decline in participation in youth tackle football programs, who was controlling that? The moms. It was women. And so it only makes sense for the NFL. You have Taylor Swift, who, she guess there's a lot of young women that follow her. Well, who are those people going to be in the future? They're going to be moms. And so to me, the NFL is just doing what's smart. It's a good business decision. If she's going to bring more eyeballs to the game, like that Buffalo Kansas City game, they hadn't had records like that for like 20 years in terms of viewership.
I don't even think it's the league though. I think it's the TV networks.
Oh,
But they're working. They're working together.
They're partners. I'm sure
Right,
the league is in there saying, if this young lady is going to bring us ratings points, they have a dollar figure attached to a rating point.
Sure.
And you're going to bring it. Sure. I would if I was running the network. She'd have a fucking halftime show. I'd interview her at halftime. Forget the coach. Go talk to her between the first and second quarter.
She's also one of the most popular people on earth. Also, let's just throw that in there too.
Yeah.
If they're gonna show these nameless bums out here, people who do nothing, get shown all the time. Why would you not show the most popular person on earth who happens to be at your
Eminem
stadium?
got showed 15 times at every Lions game.
No,
they knew where Eminem was sitting, and they showed him at every game.
So they did actually put out.
I don't think
Eminem have to do with this. What is Eminem? This is just Detroit. Timberwolves are the best team in the league. Where's the Pistons? Where are the Pistons? I mean, where's the Pistons?
David, I'm supporting your point.
It's time to open this show back up, man. Let's just go ahead and start this thing over.
All right, guys.
They did actually put out a number based on Taylor Swift. So they think that since she's got there, based on increased ticket sales, increased jersey sales, stuff like that, they're equating her presence in the league to be about $331.5 million.
Whoa. Shout out to Taylor.
Conversation over.
Like
great close, Bo. Drop the mic. That's the end of
All
that.
right, guys. Let's get out of here. I'll see everybody next week.
All right,
guys.
Timberwolves are the best team. What about the Pistons? How many wins do the Pistons
Get your
have?
mouthpiece in.
What is their record? Let's talk
I'm
about
out,
that.
fellas. I'm out. I ain't dealing with this.
See you later, guys.